Good day, everybody. This is Freeman Dlamini from Free-Techno Enterprises. Today I want us to talk about getting started with HTML. Basically, I want us to be able to know how do we create websites. I want to teach about creating websites today. That is basically what I'm saying. And then in order for us to be able to create websites, we need what we call a programming language or a markup language for those websites that we're going to be creating. And the markup language that we are going to be creating is called HTML like this. HTML. So what we are going to do is in this tutorial we are going to introduce it and introduce the tools that we need, and then start looking into a basic text and a few code or a few programming and then in the next tutorial we are going to continue with direct or with programming straight. So in this tutorial I wanted to introduce everybody who may be totally new into programming or in the web development environment. So what we are going to do is now let us explain what is HTML. HTML is a language or it's a markup language that we use for creating websites, and HTML is an abbreviation for hypertext markup language. So for us to be able to code HTML or create websites in HTML, we need what we call an editor, a text editor. And the text editor that you have by default is called Notepad, like this. Notepad, this one, the Notepad. This is the text editor that you have by default in your laptop or in your PC computer, right? That you have it by default. So you need what we call in text editor, which is Notepad, and then you also need what we call in browser, which is Chrome. We also need what we call in. We need text editor and the browser, and then basic knowledge of HTML. That's it. Then you are good. You can just start programming. You can create your website. You can start even making money online by selling those websites that you create. If you have your text editor and your browser, when you create your code in here in your text editor, and then you run your code in a browser. The browser can be Chrome or Firefox or Opera. Most of you know Opera Mini or Firefox. How do you write Firefox? Something like this. It could be Chrome, Opera, or Firefox. So in this instance, we are going to be using as a text editor in here. We are going to be using we are not going to be using Notepad, but we are going to be using what we call VS Code, something like this. And then for browser, we are going to be using MS Edge, something like this, right? So these are the tools we are going to be using: VS Code and MS Edge to create our website. So for us to be able to create a website, what we need, the first thing we need is a file in which we are going to be writing our code. So I'm just going to switch on into my folder in here where I'm in desktop in the YouTube HTML folder. Go to any folder or create a folder in your desktop or in your machine, and then in that folder you are going to create a file. So for me to be able to create a file in here, I am going to say create any file, but call it the file name should be like this: index.html, like this, index.html. You create this file and then name it like this, index.html. We call it an HTML file. That's the file that you are going to be creating in your folder, right? So I am going to, what did I do? I've touched this insert thing. So otherwise, let's continue. Otherwise, what I was saying is create your file and call it index.html, or you can call it any name, but the extension or the extension of the file should be .html, .html, something like this. Your file should be .html. Otherwise, what I'm going to do in here, I'm going to create my own file and I'm going to call it index.html. Remember that the folder that I'm in is this folder: desktop, node, YouTube, and HTML folder. So what I'm going to do in here, I'm just going to create a file in here, and I'm going to call it index.html, right? And now that I have this file in this folder, what I need to do is I need to open this file using what? My text editor, so that I can be able to code or edit my code inside the file. So to open it in my text editor, I'm just going to switch on to the text editor now. I'm opening my text editor. My text editor, I usually use VS Code. It's Visual Studio Code. You don't have to use it. If you don't have it, just use the notepad. But if you have your Visual Studio Code and then you are good, you can just use it. So as you can see here, this is the file that I just created, the index.html file. Remember what I said. I said for you to be able to write HTML code, your file extension should be .html at the end. What we say, a file extension is that ending part. Some files you will find them, you see their extensions are .pdf, .docx, .doc, .whatever. But here we need a file that is with this extension .html at the end. That is a file extension. That's the file that we need for us to be able to create HTML code. So in here, it is where we are going to be able to do what? To run our HTML code in this file, or to write our HTML code. So how do we write HTML code? The first thing that we do, we need to be able to see how does code transition from this file into the browser. Excuse me. So let us do this. This is HTML code, something like this. When I write this and then I go to file here, when I go to file in here, I'm going to save it. After saving it, I need to be able to run this file, right? When I run this file, how do you run this file? In order for you to run this file, you need to be able to go back into the Explorer where you created this file. Here we created in this Explorer. Let me open the Explorer in here so that I can show you. The file that we created is here, the index.html file. As you can see, it is in this path. Always when you create a file in your computer, you must be able to know the path, and this is where you see the path, right? So this is the file that I created. So now for me to be able to run this file, what I'm going to do, I'm going to right click in here and choose open with any browser that I have in this machine. And for now I have Microsoft Edge, and I'm just going to click my Microsoft Edge. What is going to happen is this Microsoft Edge is going to open and run my code, the code that I have written in here, which is this is HTML code. As you can see, now it is this side. It is running on this browser, which basically means what? If now I will take this website, this is a fully functional website. I've just created my website, right? If I can take this website and host it online, people can now be able to see my website in here, which says this is HTML code. I've just created a website. Thank you. Otherwise, let us continue. So what exactly do we need to do for us to create those websites that you can remember? Websites like, let me say, google.com, something like this. Websites like this, google.com, or these sites, or any other website. What do we need? Because as you can see in here, what do I have? I have just this code. This code needs formatting. If you want these words, if I can write Google here and then save and then go to this file, and then when I come to this file and refresh, as you can see, when I refresh, the Google in here is this side, and then when you go to this Google, you can see that Google is here. So we need what we call formatting. We need to be able to format or style up our code so that it can be what we want. So what exactly do we need? We need what we call syntax. syntax. We need the syntax of the HTML code. So the syntax, it is let me say, it is the procedures, or the general procedure, or the structure of how do we write HTML code. Because if we wanted to create a website, we could have written it like this: Google, whatever we want. We could have written everything that this is my first website and do whatever, right? But then, as you can see, when I Control S and then save and then go to this side, you can see everything is in here. Let us assume that we want this to be on the next line. We want this to be to come before this one. We want to format it in whatever manner that you want to do it. So how do you do it? That is where this word comes in, the syntax. We need to learn the syntax of writing HTML code. The syntax is what is going to help us to be able to control the code, or to be able to manage our code, right? To be able to come up with something like this one, right? These pages or this whatever. As you can see, everything in here is sorted in order. It's sorted, even this footing part, everything in here is sorted nice and perfect. This is what we need to be to learn. This is how we need to code, right? So that is what we are going to be doing, I think, in the next tutorial. Please support this channel. Please like, share this content to your friends, to everyone that you think you might need this content. Share with them. Then tell them that we are learning here, because this is a beginning of this whole series, the HTML series. So we are still going to learn a lot. So tell everyone that we are learning in here. Let them come so that they can join us into this channel. Otherwise, thank you for supporting. Continue supporting by subscribing, liking, and sharing. Otherwise, I will see you in the next tutorial, in where we are going to be talking about the syntax of HTML. How do we literally write the code now, so that we can be able to see something like this. Otherwise, thank you.